you are going to have a holistic understanding in this regards. Got it? So we are bound to be covering very important conferences. We are bound to be covering very important summits which have took place, and in the past 10 to 11 months, all the conferences which have taken place, we are going to be focusing upon them holistically. That is the main idea. Clear, Raji? So I would like to start with the G7. Now this is very much important, G7 summit. As we talk about, recently we saw 50th G7 summit took place, and it basically took place in Italy. So host country was his Italy. It was the 50th edition, also known as G7 Italia 2024. And what was the theme? Now theme is another thing which is very much important. Theme is also a thing which you are supposed to notice about. So you have to have a proper clarity about the theme as well. Always remember this thing. आपको theme का भी एक idea होना चाहिए. So this is why we are also in the first place discussing the theme over here. So this is quite important. So whenever we talk about the theme, you got to understand this aspect, that what was the theme? It was rule-based international system. It was the rule-based international system as we talk about. So very easy. So we have to have this idea in our mind that how do we look at it? How exactly are we going to understand this very aspect which becomes very much important. Now, India though is not a part of G7, but we were there in the summit. India did attend the summit in Italy. Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi did go to Italy to attend this very summit. So that also makes it very much important from India point of view, that though we are not member of the G7, but we have attended this very summit which took place in Italy in 2024 summers. So ये एक important aspect है. You can have a look. So she is Giorgia Meloni. She is the Prime Minister of Italy, G7 Italia. She is the host, and you can see Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi also was invited. He also attended this very summit, which is quite important. So these are very minor things, but we have to have an idea that where the G7 summit took place. So this is a very important point we need to be understanding precisely. I hope it's clear. These are very important points we have to be looking at. Clear, Raji? So I am hopeful that all the things we are discussing, you are in a position to have a clear-cut understanding. Now, one very important point we need to look into is that in year 2025, again, this summit is going to take place. Now, where is the summit going to take place? It is Canaan Skis. Now, what is Canaan Skis? It is in Canada. Remember this thing. So basically, the 2025 summit is going to take place in June 2025. And because the presidency is with Canada, so it's going to take place in the Canada. This is a very important point. So remember these very minor aspects, these are going to be super important. So keep on making running notes also. That is what I would be suggesting. All of you should be making the running notes over here. They are going to prove very much helpful for you in the revision aspect. Because if you want to genuinely revise, then running notes can come very much handy. So make sure you always are trying to make some running notes as well, along with what is being given in the PDF as well. But running notes are going to prove very important for you guys. So make sure you hit the like button, do share the session with your friends so that they can also take advantage of that. So this word is, this particular region is going to be important, that is Kananaskis, which is there in Alberta, that is in Canada. This is quite important. So you got to understand this thing. So we have to understand that 51st summit, that is 51st G7 summit, which is going to take place in the year 2025, it is going to take place in Canada. That's one thing. And remember one thing, that where is Kananaski? It is basically here. If you can see that, this is Canada, this is USA. You must be knowing these are Rockies mountains, through Canada and the US this way. So Rockies mountain mein, Alberta, British Columbia, this particular area is Kananaskis. Here we have the Kananaskis. So where do we have Kananaskis? Kananaskis is there in Canada. This part basically we have got. I hope you've learned something new over here. Got it? So that is how the questions are being framed. So UPSC may not ask you about the G7 directly, but they will in a way indirectly ask about this. Hai indirectly so they can ask. So we have to be very much clear in our mind that we are sure that where are Kananaski is located. So we have to have a basic understanding on this very point. That is what the idea is. Simple. इतना आपको बेसिक एक आइडिया होना चाहिए, एंड दैट इज व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू हैव अ आइडिया अबाउट. Is that clear? So here at the platform IAS Origin, what we try to do is we are trying to make sure that you have a proper holistic clarity on each and every aspect. This is quite important. Chaliye. Okay. So do stay till the end so that you are able to take full advantage of this very session. Chaliye aage. Good. Now we talk about bete G20. Everybody know about G20, you know. So we are aware that in 2023, the G20 summit took place in India. We were the host of G20 summit in 2023. Remember, Vasudev Kutumbakam was the theme, one earth, one family, one future. You know, 2023 was the first time India was the host country. So this was very much interesting. But you got to understand, Hari, good afternoon. But you got to understand this thing, that 2024 summit took place where? It took place in Brazil. And this year, the presidency is with South Africa. You know this thing? And next, 2026 summit is going to take place in USA. So you must be knowing about troika. You know troika? So when I say troika, you got to understand that troika means who is having the present presidency. That is South Africa. Who was the previous one? That is Brazil. And who is going to be the next? That is USA. So you remember this thing, that Brazil was the host in 2024. 2025 mein South Africa is the host. And 2026 mein it is going to be what? USA. So you have to have a basic idea. Simple point. So always remember about this idea of troika, which is quite important. So in G20, we always talk about this concept of troika. So remember this thing, that if somebody asks you, okay, where is 2025 summit going to take place? Because the presidency is with South Africa, so it's going to be South Africa. But after India, where the summit took place, it was in Brazil. That is 2024. So I know these things may sound a bit tricky, but these are the kind of the questions they are asking in the examination. Make sure you hit the like button so that this video goes to your liked videos. Everyone, like कर दें इसको, ताकि आपके जो liked videos है उसमें ये सारी जो चीजें हैं वो चली जाए. That is going to be very much helpful. Got it? So let's move ahead then. Now remember one thing, when we talk about this summit, you know, of 2024, this Brazil summit, we had a very nice theme. What was the theme basically? You know, the theme of the summit, keep on making the running notes, bete. This is going to be very much helpful. The theme was building a just world and a sustainable planet. Building a just world and sustainable planet was the theme. It took place basically in November 2024. You know, 2023 mein India was the host, 2024 mein Brazil was the host, as I've told you, you know, see, Brazil. So remember this thing, you know, themes are also important. Like Vasudev Kutumbakam was the theme when India was the host, but when Brazil did host this, so Brazil took this as the theme. This is the theme. So remember this thing, this is quite important, very much important this is. So I am hopeful that, you know, you guys are not only understanding the nitty-gritties involved, but you are also having a clear-cut idea on each and everything which we are discussing. है ना? समझ आ रहा है? Thank you Tarun, thank you so much. Thank you for all your support, bete. I really appreciate the support you guys give. And let me tell you one thing, that, you know, you have to be understanding this thing, that these are the things which are asked in the prelims exam. At times, you know, statement wale question mein wo de dega, and that becomes a very tough job if you don't know that how do we tackle that. So we have to be very much smart in decoding this particular thing. Got it? So every day make sure you join this session at 12. And this time, that is 2025, G20 presidency is with South Africa, as I've told you already. See, South Africa hai. This year it is South Africa, that is 2025. So you got to understand that this time it's going to take place there. Summit is going to take place in South Africa. And the theme is solidarity, equality and sustainability. So remember this troika idea. Troika is very much important. That 2025 is South Africa. 2024 was Brazil. ऐसे लिख लो. And 2026 is going to be USA. Very much important this is. है ना? Interesting? So that's how the troika works of G20. So G20 summit. So this is very much important that G20 2025 ki summit is going to take place in South Africa under this particular theme. So this is going to be the theme of the 2025 ki summit. This is the idea. है ना interesting? Chalo, that's good. Let's now move ahead. Moving ahead of this thing. So you can understand, how important these topics are. Everybody is aware of this fact. Now moving ahead of this particular idea, now I would like to talk about the summit, that is ASEAN summit. ASEAN, this particular body, this particular organization, it is association of Southeast Asian nations. So Southeast Asian countries are there. ASEAN has got presently 10 member countries. 10 members we have. Southeast Asia countries, I'll show you on the map. But what is more important is that in 2024, basically in the month of October, the summit took place. So ASEAN ki summit of 2024 took place. The presidency was with Laos, and the Laos capital is Vientiane. So remember this thing, that the summit of 2024 of ASEAN has taken place in the Laos. Hanji. Priyanka, we'll have a separate session on that. Abhi we are just talking about the summits and all. Okay, I'll have a proper session on that. Don't worry. So see, G20, we will talk about that once again. Just hold on. So remember this thing. In the October, Vientiane, that is in the Laos, became the host of the summit. So this 44th, 45th summit took place in Laos. You have to remember this thing. So this can be a direct question. And what was the theme? The theme basically was enhancing connectivity and resilience. I hope you are able to read that. I hope you are able to read this particular theme. It was about enhancing the connectivity and resilience. This is the theme, as you can read it. Visible, Eddie? Everybody visible? So quite important. So now I would like to tell you one very interesting aspect. Whenever we talk about this, since it's a very recent event, October mein hua, so that becomes very much important. So this is a very important current affair. Remember this thing. Now remember this thing, when we saw the formation of ASEAN, initially we had only these countries. Only 5 countries were there. Later on, Brunei, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia joined. So today we have 10 member countries of ASEAN. Today we have 10 member countries. And one very interesting thing I would like to tell you, that there is a chance that East Timor, small country East Timor, it is not a member. So it will soon join ASEAN as the 11th member. So this is very much speculated that very soon East Timor, this very country, is going to join, not visible. Shweta, I'll take care of it, don't worry. So East Timor may join ASEAN as the 11th member soon. So this can be a question that, which country may be joining ASEAN soon. So we should understand that this is quite an important thing. East Timor, So this country, East Timor, is going to join it soon, but it has not joined it yet. So ASEAN is having only 10 member countries. Remember this thing. ASEAN has only 10 member countries. Very much important. Hanji. Any doubts? Is that clear? So when was ASEAN established? ASEAN was established in the year 1967 with only 5 countries: Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and later on these 5 countries joined. So that's why today we have got 10 countries. Now the next question which comes to my mind is, what is the headquarter of ASEAN? Where is the headquarter located? So headquarter is located in Indonesia, that is Jakarta. Capital of Indonesia? So Jakarta is the headquarter of ASEAN. I hope you can read it. Jakarta is the headquarter of ASEAN. You have to understand that. So these sessions are going to add a lot of revision to your preparation. Preparation mein revision is the real game. So you have to have a proper idea about that. Remember? So now remember this thing, that at the Bangkok Declaration we have the formation of ASEAN, and recently we have the summit taking place at Laos, that is summit of 2024. Summit of 2024 took place at Laos. So you can have a proper idea. I have told you the theme as well. Now, one more thing I would like to add, bete, that Now, this year, the chairmanship of ASEAN is with Malaysia. So, the summit is going to take place in Malaysia. So, if somebody talk about 2024, Laos. If somebody talk about 2025, so that's going to be Malaysia because the presidentship is with Malaysia. So, remember this thing always. Okay, ji? So, I am hopeful that you guys are having a clear-cut idea. No, Adit, we will still call it G20 only. Okay, we are still, going to call it G20. The nomenclature is not going to change soon. Remember this thing. Clear hai ji? Chalo. So, I am hopeful about one thing at least, that you guys are in a position to understand this idea precisely, that all these aspects are so much important that you have to have a clear-cut idea. Now, we'll talk about COP. COP 28, COP 29, climate conferences, we'll talk about that. Now, firstly, you got to understand that whenever we talk about the COP, generally, it refers to the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Like recently it took place in Baku, COP 29 took place in Baku, that is Azerbaijan. So, you got to understand that we have got a United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is UNFCCC. On basis of this, every year we have the COPs, that is Conference of Parties. And these Conference of Parties are basically the COP 28, COP 29, COP 30, all these. So, first and the foremost thing, I'll explain that in detail. Basically, I'll give you the basis of this as well. Don't worry. So, firstly, you got to understand that whenever I talk about COP, what is COP? That's the first question, right? COP hai kya? So, remember this thing, that COP is basically meaning the Conference of Parties. Getting it? So, it is all under the aegis of UNFCCC. So, basically it meets every year, and first time we saw it took place in Berlin. So, if somebody asks you that Conference of Party 1 of UNFCCC, that is, climate change conference, it took place where? So, it was back in 1995. This is a very important fact. It took place in Berlin, that is Germany. Berlin, that is Germany, mein we have got the first COP which took place. That's an interesting fact, right? The first COP took place over there. And recently, the COP which took place was what? That was the COP 29. So, remember this thing, that COP 29 which took place in Baku, that is Azerbaijan, it was in November 2024. 2024 ke November mein hui thi, right? So, this is a very recent COP. Here we talk about a very important aspect of tripling the climate finance. So, here there is a term known as NCQG. What is it? NCQG. So, what is NCQG? This can be a direct question. NCQG is New Collective Quantified Goals. What is NCQG? New Collective Quantified Goals. So, basically at COP 29, it was pledged to increase the climate finance for developing countries to $300 billion annually by 2025. This is very much important. So, Baku, which is in Azerbaijan, here we have this COP which took place. So, a question can be, ki NCQG is associated with which COP? So, you should be in a position to answer this precisely. I'll tell you about other recent COPs also. Welcome Jagrup, welcome to the class, bete. So, idea is very clear, you got to be very, clear in your mind that these are the things you got to study. They are very much important. Now, moving ahead, bete, we have to understand that this year, that is 2025, May, the COP is going to be COP 30. You all know that. So, COP 30, which is going to take place in November 2025, it's going to take place in Brazil. Very interesting. So, remember this thing, that COP 30 is going to be United Nations Climate Change Conference. Okay. It is going to take place in a place known as Belém. What is Belém? Belém is a place, here we have Belém. So, this is a place known as Belém, which is in Brazil. Remember this thing. Okay, Brazil mein is a place. So, Brazil ki capital is Brasilia. But north of Brasilia, we have a place known as Belém. So, Belém ke andar, at Belém, this is going to take place. So, this is again a place in news. In prelims, you can have directly a question that Belém was in news. Where is Belém located? You should know Belém is located in Brazil. So, that is how you decode this. Belém is located in Brazil. As simple as that. Is that clear? Now, remember this thing, whenever we talk about the COPs, we always talk about one conference which is very much important, that is Paris conference. Remember? So remember this thing, you know, whenever we talk about this COP21, this is one of the most important COP in the recent times. And what was the year of this? It was 2015. 2015 mein, around 9 years back, 9-10 years back, we have COP21. And COP21 took place in Paris, that is France. COP21 took place in Paris. So whenever we talk about the Paris Agreement related to the global warming, it is a product of this COP21. Remember this thing. So it talked about climate finance by the rich country. Yearly 100 billion funding was pledged, right? Which was recently increased to 300 billion at Baku. I just told you, Baku. So Paris COP is very much important. And basically it did talk about that global temperature below 2 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial level. So basically it wanted to restrict the global warming. That pre-industrial level, before industrial revolution, whatever the global average temperature was, we have to not increase beyond 2 degree centigrade. So we have to keep it well below that. This is what the idea was. So, but what is more important, that COP21 took place in Paris, year was 2015, very important. Recently, if we talk about, this was very much highlighted by media as well, and it's important as a COP26. So where did COP26 take place? It was in Glasgow, that is United Kingdom. Glasgow, Scotland. So Glasgow, that is UK, mein COP26 took place recently. Now when we talk about the COP26, we have to talk about what is the role of India there. When I talk about India, we talk about an initiative, that is LIFE initiative. LIFE, what is LIFE? LIFE basically means lifestyle for environment. It was announced by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi at COP26 Glasgow in UK. And what was the year? COP26 basically was year 2021. The year was 2021, post-COVID year. Glasgow. So where is Glasgow? Glasgow is in UK. So always remember this thing. This can be a question, that LIFE initiative was introduced by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi at which COP? It was COP26 Glasgow. That's one thing. Secondly, India also announced net zero target of 2070. Year 2070 tak hum net zero jayenge. This was also announced where? It was announced at Glasgow COP26. Got it? So this is quite important, breakthrough agenda of Glasgow, and India called for phase down of coal-based power, all these things. So for us Indians, or for the country India, this Glasgow COP is super important. Remember, for Indians, this Glasgow COP is super important. So we got to keep this in our mind. Though we are studying about the conference, so these are very important conferences we got to understand. COP26. And then had COP27, it was in Sharm el-Sheikh, that is Egypt. So here we have a lot of things like, terms like loss and damage fund was there. This was in a lot of news. And Mangrove Alliance, basically we saw India has been a partner of that. So we are focusing on these particular things. Then of course we have a proper global sheet financing facility. See, COPs mein we always talk about the financing, that how are developing countries going to be, adopting these expensive finances, because shifting from non-renewable to renewable is not easy. You need a lot of investment. So that is always an agenda. Okay, so COP27, which took place in 2022, was in Egypt. Remember, it was in Egypt. Quite important this is. And then we always talk about COP28. We talk about COP28 recently, which was in Dubai. है ना? Dubai में. Here we again talk about this loss and damage fund, which was in a lot of news. And India led Green Credit Initiative. India also talked about Global River City Alliance. All these things are there. But you just need to know where it took place. And recently we have already talked about the Baku. So Brazil wali to jab hogi tab hum dekhenge. Abhi we don't talk about that. Make sure you all do share the session with your friends so that they can also take advantage. Now it's very important to talk about United Nations, 79th United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. So every year in the month of September, you will see what? You will see a new president of UNGA take over. So presently, who is the president of UNGA? It is Philemon Yang. Philemon Yang belonged to a country known as Cameroon. Cameroon, which is in Africa, you can see on the map also. Cameroon is a country in Africa. In the western part of Africa you have. He is the former Prime Minister of Cameroon. So he was the Prime Minister of Cameroon. Now he is the President of UNGA. Remember this thing. He assumed the office in September. So every year in the September. So September to September you have this president. Then next year again in September we will have another president. So this is how it is done. Usually from developing countries only we have the presidents. So Cameroon. So you can be asked this question that Philemon Yang belong to which country? He belongs to Cameroon. That is in Africa. Philemon Yang belong to Cameroon. You got to understand. Is that clear? So the theme, now this is very much interesting aspect. Let us talk about it. Whenever we talk about the theme today, you have to, I hope it's very much visible. So this can be a question in your examination that what is the theme of 79th session of UNGA? The theme is leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development and human dignity. This is quite important. So you just need to have a basic idea that of 79th session, what exactly is the theme we need to understand. है ना? Clear hai? What is the theme? So you can see in this particular session, you are gaining immensely. You are gaining a lot of important things which are important from the examination point of view, as we all talk about. So exam ke hisab se these are super important things which we are talking about. ठीक है जी? Shall we move ahead? Sure. Now, having said that, I would like to talk about, recently it was in a lot of news, that is Quad Leaders Summit. You know Quad? So what forms Quad? You can see these people, these head of state, Australia, Biden from USA, Modi from India, and Fumio Kishida from Japan. So you can remember like this. So we have got 4 countries which form the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, so Quad. So you just remember this thing, that where did the summit take place? Remember in this recently September, President Biden hosted this particular summit of these people in USA. So basically this summit took place in USA. USA where this summit has taken place. This is a place known as Wilmington in Delaware. There this summit has taken place, that is Quad Leaders Summit. Quad Leaders Summit has taken place in USA. We have to understand this point. Clear है जी? Easy. चलो. Moving ahead. Now इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं है. Just remember this thing. Now recently we have seen that India has hosted for the first time this very important summit, which was again in a lot of news, and India hosted the 46th session of World Heritage Committee meeting. It was organized in New Delhi, Bharat Mandapam. So why is this so much important? Remember this thing. When we talk about World Heritage Committee meeting, we talk about the dharohar, like World Heritage sites. What all World Heritage sites do we need to add? What all can be the prospective World Heritage sites? So all these discussions are basically taking place over here, which are going to be super important. So remember this thing always, that such summits are important, and India has hosted that, which is a great thing. This is not that important, but remember this thing, that World Heritage Committee meeting took place in Delhi. Now this is quite important. Recently we saw that Ministry of Food Processing organized what? The 3rd edition of World Food India 2024. Now what is it all about? We'll talk about that. But remember this thing, that this was started in 2017. This was the first edition. And then its 2nd edition took place in 2023. And now in 2024, we have got the 3rd edition. Firstly, remember this thing. So this was not the first edition. This was the 3rd edition which took place in 2024, because first edition was in 2017 and 2nd edition was in 2023. Now, what is more important is that it is a gathering of stakeholder in the food processing sector. Food processing sector, increasing the farmers' income and everything. That is quite important. So remember this thing, that in the month of September, World Food India brought different stakeholders, not only from India, but from across the world. They came together and they discussed that how can we improve or how can we explore the potential of food processing sector in India. This is quite important. So that is how we look at it. So you have to be very smart in understanding this fact, that this is actually a very important thing. So here, if we talk about this thing, we see various exhibitions were organized, digital showcase was there, food street was there, of course. We have, different industrial people, awards were given. So World Food India 2024 was a great event, global event, which took place in Pragati Maidan, New Delhi. It was in September, basically. Very important event this was, so we have to understand this point. Easy? Clear? Ye to easy hai. Now I would like to talk about a very important event which is going to take place, and it will be, making a lot of headlines once again, but you have to be aware of this point. Now that event is WAVES. Now what is that? Let's explore it. When you talk about the WAVES, what is WAVES? WAVES is basically World Audiovisual Entertainment Summit. For the first time in February, we were supposed to organize it, of course, but now it has been shifted to May. May 2025 May we are going to be organizing it. So now what is more important is this is going to be a platform for industry leaders, and we are going to cover AVGC. Now what is AVGC? AVGC basically means animation, visual effect, gaming and comics. This is important. So we are going to have a dialogue and innovation on these various areas, AVGC area. So different innovators, different creators are going to come and they're going to collaborate their advancements in the audio visual entertainment sector. Entertainment sector, now we talk about the digital entertainment, we talk about the animations, everything. So this is going to be a great place. In fact, in Mumbai, we are going to have that. So World Audio Visual Entertainment Summit is going to take place, and that is known as WAVES. So this question can come that what is WAVES? So which ministry is behind that? This is going to be very much important. WAVES ke piche, the ministry is going to be Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, that is Government of India. This is going to be super important. So now here I have tried to make sure that all these important aspects basically we are discussing, so that if and when this is being asked in the examination, you should not feel lost. You should have a basic idea about these things, that okay, you have read it somewhere. This should be the point you have to understand. Clear hai ji? Moving ahead, now make sure you join this Telegram channel so that you are getting the PDF as well on time. Well on time you can get the PDF. This is quite important. That is IAS Origin. Okay. Now we all know in the month of January, 9th January ko we celebrate the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. You must be aware of that. Recently we had the 18th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas convention, 8 to 10. Now this becomes very much important that where it took place in Bhubaneswar. So 8 to 10th of January mein, it took place in Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar is in Odisha. You are aware of that. What was the theme? The theme here was Diaspora's contribution to a Viksit Bharat. This was the theme. And again, a very important thing is who was the chief guest? The chief guest was Christine Kangalo. She was the chief guest, and she is the president of Trinidad and Tobago. She is from Indian origin, of course. She is of Indian origin. So she is the 7th president of Trinidad and Tobago. I'll show you where it is. Caribbean islands. So when we talk about the Americas, wahan pe Caribbean islands hai. So basically in Bhubaneswar we celebrated. Basically every 2 years we do that. Like 2 years back we did in Indore, and now we are doing in Odisha. So then again 2 years down the line we'll be doing. So till 2015 we used to do it every year. 2015 ke baad, after 2015 we have been doing it biennial. Biennial means once in 2 years. So that is what the Pravasi Bharatiya convention is all about. You got to understand that. So where is Trinidad Tobago? Here we have got Trinidad and Tobago. So you see Venezuela, Guyana, off the coast. If you see, here we have the Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago. You can have a look. This is where Trinidad and Tobago is. South America, Venezuela is there. Off the coast, we have got Trinidad and Tobago. I hope it's clear. Okay. Now, moving ahead, let's talk about SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, here a lot of students were having confusions. So I want to firstly make sure I address that particular thing. When we talk about SCO, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So 24th Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit took place in Astana. Last year in July in Astana it took place, 24th meeting of Council of the Heads. So remember this thing always, what happens is usually this summit is very important, that is summits of council, summits of head of the states. But in October, we had summits of head of the government. So in general, you know, in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in general, we have two summits. One is summit of head of the government, which took place in Islamabad, that is Pakistan, in October. One summit is head of the state summit, which took place in Astana. So I don't think they'll be asking you the question because it's quite confusing. So from India, though, we have the S. Jaishankar who attended both the summits. But you got to understand that the one which was in July, that was summits of head of the state, and one which was in October, that was the summit of head of the government. So that you don't have any confusion, I have told you this thing. Very important. But it is very important for you guys to understand about SCO as a body. SCO hai kya? We got to understand that. So remember this thing, that initially SCO was not SCO, it was Shanghai 5. In 1996, we have Shanghai 5, which was formed with the China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia and Tajikistan. These were the 5 bodies, 5 countries. And then Uzbekistan joined. Then Uzbekistan joined in 2001. And in 2001, it became the SCO formally. So Shanghai Cooperation Organization became Shanghai Cooperation Organization in 2001 with the joining of Uzbekistan. And at that time, it had 6 members. It had 6 members. Finally, in 2017, India and Pakistan joined. So 6 plus 2, it became 8 members. And recently, Iran and Belarus joined. So now 8 plus 2 is equal to 10 members. So it has got 10 members now. So SCO, when it was Shanghai 5 in 1996, it had only China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia and Tajikistan. In 2001, Uzbekistan joined and it became SCO. And then it was expanded in 2017 with India and Pakistan. And later Iran joined and later recently Belarus. So Belarus is the newest member. And always remember one thing, that whenever I'm talking about SCO, SCO has got its headquarters in Beijing. Beijing, that is in China. There we have got the headquarters of SCO located. This is quite important. So this question can be there. It's not in Shanghai, it's in Beijing, which can be a good question. Naam Shanghai Cooperation hai, but headquarters are in Beijing. This is quite an important thing. So which Central Asian country is not a member of SCO? You got to understand always. So remember that Turkmenistan, which is a Central Asian country, but it is not a member of SCO. Always remember this thing. All the other members from Central Asia are there, like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. But Turkmenistan is not a member of SCO. You got to understand that. And SCO was formed in 2001 when the Shanghai 5 added Uzbekistan and then India, Pakistan, then Iran, Belarus. So I hope this idea is absolutely clear to you guys. This is a very important thing. So I'm trying to add the static dimension also to this so that you are clear with that. Okay. Now BRICS summit and one more summit I'll be covering. That is what the idea is. Okay. Now I would like to talk about a summit which took place in October and November 2024. That is known as COP16. But now which COP it is? Let's understand that. It is a conference of parties, no doubt. But it is a conference of parties. Like climate change wali is the COP of what? Climate change conference is the COP of UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. But here, this is the COP of United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, that is CBD. So Convention on Biological Diversity ki COP took place recently in Colombia. There's a city known as Cali. So this is very important for you to understand that every convention will have some COPs. Okay? Usually I know that climate change wali COP is very famous and very prominent, no doubt. But you have to understand that this COP is also important. This particular COP is equally important. So United Nations Convention on Biological, so this is the convention basically. I'm talking about CBD. Convention on Biological Diversity basically, which was drafted back in 1992 and then it was signed. So you got to understand this thing, that this became effective in 1993. It is a very important environmental agreement which is known as Convention on Biological Diversity. So इसी के COPs होते हैं and इसी का COP16 recently took place in Colombia in the city known as Cali. Remember this thing. Got it? So usually that COP28, COP29, COP30, that is what? That is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change COPs. And this is the COP of CBD, that is the Convention on Biological Diversity. So please make a distinction over here. I hope you are in a position to understand this idea precisely, all of you. So do add the session to your liked videos if you have not added it in your liked video, so that you can watch it later also. You should be in a position to watch it later as well. So make sure you add this session to your liked videos, all the people out there. ठीक है, इसको like जरूर कर ले, because होता क्या है कि then you are not able to revise it properly. Next, I would like to talk about BRICS. You know BRICS, everybody. So BRICS summit is important. So when I talk about the BRICS summit, recently, that was in October 2024, we have 16th BRICS summit which took place in Kazan. You know, there's a place known as Kazan. So Kazan, this can be a question. So you should know that Kazan is in Russia. You know, Russia was the host, Kazan Expo Center. And this year, in July, we are going to have 17th summit which is going to take place in Rio, that is Brazil. So remember this thing, that this year summit, that is 2025 ki summit, is going to take place in Rio. That's important. So you have to do proper revision for that. And if I talk about the BRICS, so in 2001, basically, the term BRIC was there, BRIC. So what is BRIC? So when I say BRIC, basically it was given by Goldman Sachs, and you got to understand that they included only Brazil, Russia, India, China. So only Brazil, Russia, India, China was there and BRIC was there. And later on, we saw that South Africa became the member and this became BRICS. This is very much important. And recently, the BRICS have joined various other members. So, you know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, these are the initial members. But recently, we saw that Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran and UAE joined in 2024. And the newest member is Indonesia. So, Indonesia is the newest member of BRICS. Always remember this thing. It has recently joined the BRICS. So, now we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So, Indonesia is the 10th member of the BRICS. Recently, it was in a lot of news. So, you should know that BRICS expansion is taking place. So, initially, no doubt that these are the members. These were the original BRICS countries. Okay? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. But later on in 2024, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE joined. And then we have got this Indonesia, which has joined. So, that is how we look at it. Hai clear ki nahi? So, I am hopeful that, you are in a position to understand these aspects. These are very important ones. And we have to have a clear-cut idea in our minds. Perfect. So, now you can join IAS Origin Telegram channel to get the PDF of this session, which I am hopeful that is going to be very much helpful for your overall revision. You can add this session to your liked videos, so that ultimately you can revise also for your revision purpose. Do subscribe to the channel for more such sessions, and 12 PM live, join us for more such videos. Do share with your friends if you have found it genuinely interesting, if you found it genuinely very much, clarity you have got it, that is very much important. So thank you so very much. It was great having this session, everyone. So take care. Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.